Today we are joined by Professor Ruchira Sen. Professor Sen is a faculty member and Assistant Dean for Academic Affairs and Student Affairs at the Jindal School of Journalism and Communication. She's an economist by training, having been trained at St. Stephen's College, Jawaharlal Nehru University and the University of Missouri, Kansas City. Welcome, Professor Sen.
Thank you, Professor.
I wanted, as an economist teaching in a journalism school, I wanted your opinion on the economics of journalism. So, for example, we are presently, as a nation, we are presently facing a contraction of the economy by about 29%. 6.6 million people are without jobs. And yet, somehow, mainstream media seems to think it's important for us to know the WhatsApp chats between Sushant Singh Rajput and Riya Chakraborty. How far have we deviated from the path of mainstream media as it should be?
How do we say how far we have gone? It's a problem with the product. News is a very interesting kind of good. What does a news agency produce? To some extent, it produces news. News is a public good, which means I can't exclude somebody who does not read my newspaper or subscribe to my TV channel from knowing the news. When coronavirus hits, it affects everybody. Everybody knows the news. And therefore, fewer people are willing to pay for the news.
So, are you suggesting that because fewer people are willing to pay for news, that is where advertising steps in and that's where TRP agencies step in?
Exactly.
Right.
So, now the TRPs are actually a data collection platform. You have the BARC, which puts up certain data collection units in televisions. It's usually a random sample, so it will be put in the televisions of various households scattered across the country. Now, based on how that particular family views the news, depending on that family's demographics, data is collected on what do young people watch? What do households of lower income groups watch? What do households of higher income groups watch? How many English news channels are watched?
Right. So what you're suggesting is that the sensationalization of mainstream media is nothing but a reflection of what households have been watching historically?
Possibly.
Right. So when does this shift happen? I mean, I thought news agencies and journalists really were supposed to report facts, not promote opinion.
Journalism is not a business. Journalism is a calling. But however, whether or not it's your calling, you still have to work for certain parties which actually own the media organizations. So it is an issue of how ownership is done, what is profitable for the owners, and whether owners can start influencing policy.
But don't you think that's dangerous? Because the moment you have a corporate organization which will have some influence over what the public views and how public opinion is shaped, right? What kind of pressure or what kind of incitement can we then apply to the public to make it think in a particular way or feel in a particular way?
Exactly, and that is a very serious issue. For example, very often news that advertisers do not want let out. South Korea has had this problem with Samsung, anti-Samsung stories often never making it to the air or into print or what have you.
Does that happen in India as well?
Look at the independent media platforms, right? The ones which are known for doing independent journalism. You have PARI, which is the People's Archive of Rural India. You have The Wire. So independent journalists get penalized. They get penalized for having opinions. Prashant Kanodia had to face legal action, and he is now.
So for a budding journalist student or somebody who wants to be a journalist, how do you escape from this seemingly intense pressure to promote certain facts over others, and instead of being an independent journalist?
We have to reconceptualize the media organization. So build independent platforms based on stakeholders who want to support it. It could be philanthropic supporters, it could be crowdsourced initiatives, it could be cooperative platforms run by journalists themselves, where they divide the ad revenue amongst themselves.
So a more democratization of journalism, right? All right, last question, Professor Sen. If I were a member of the public and I wanted to consume facts, not be swayed by opinion, right? Or not be swayed by opinion that is thrust upon me, where should I go?
Well, one good idea would be actually to develop ways of fact checking. So there is Alt News which does it for you. So you can use the Alt News platform. One of my students came up with a really excellent idea to institute a fact checker button in your Google Chrome browser.
I think it's a very cool idea too, and I think fact checking has become the mantra of the 21st century, especially in terms of mainstream media as well as social media. Well, there you have it, folks. Whenever you hear something on the news, always make sure to fact check it, no matter what the source is. Join us again in this space where we will continue to have more conversations at JGU.